God bless you. Welcome to Growing in Grace, a podcast where we are committed to helping our listeners grow in their walk with God and in their faith toward God. And so we appreciate you being here with us. We'd like for you to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your neighbors, friends, and if you've got an enemy, help them to grow in grace too. And tell them about this podcast that they might receive a benefit as well. And so this is for all people. And we want to talk today about how I survived. That's the topic of today. I survived. And we have a survivor. We have our brother, Willie Hutchinson, the third,
Yes, sir.
with us today. And he has a great story of how God blessed him to survive. And I will say this before we get into his testimony and how God blessed him, uh, that the, sometimes the devil has, he has a plan for us. The devil wants to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes, sir.
And the truth of the matter is, the devil cannot go beyond what God allows. And there is no weapon that is formed not only against Brother Willie or myself, but anybody that's listening to us that will prosper. Um, God is able to overcome even everything that the enemy throws at us. He's able to overcome all of that. And so you survive. You're a
Yes, sir, I
survivor.
did.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what you survived and how God blessed you.
Well, I would say this, Ella, the process of my survival
Mm-hmm.
is beyond the a single incident.
Mm-hmm.
That incident, which we're referring to, had some backlash and
Mm-hmm.
some lasting, long lasting effects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it may, well, I'm gonna say that it ended. Well, I can't say that it ended, but the last episode was about a couple of years back.
Mm-hmm.
But the initial incident was me being shot in the
Mm-hmm.
head,
Mm-hmm.
and the ramifications from that is seizures, medications, and certain limitations that was
Mm-hmm.
put before me that I had to kind of learn to overcome.
Okay. So before we go to some of the other things that you survived that came after that, about how old were you when you
I
got
was
shot?
13,
13.
13 years of age,
Mm-hmm.
about to be 14. I think I was about uh, 6 months or so before turning 14.
That's,
So it was a great possibility that I wouldn't see my 14th birthday.
yeah, yeah. And you understand the prognosis, what the doctors were saying.
Yes, sir.
And what was the doctor saying?
Well, the doctors gave me their version of it, and they said that if I did survive,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't really have a life much living. They said I would actually be a vegetable,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't even know that I was in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they said.
That's what they said.
Yes, sir.
That's what they said. And so, how do you feel that you were able to come through that initial part where you got all this bad prognosis and you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that? Uh, who, uh, what did God say? And how did God speak into
Mm.
your life? Because doctors saying one thing and it's kind of negative, bleak. How did God speak into your life that it wasn't going to be that way?
Um, well, initially, um, when I woke up, it was about 3 days after this incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up, um, they had my arms strapped to the bed. I had all kind of tubes going in and out of my body, and I had these straps on my arm. And when I woke up, I remember seeing my auntie, Catherine, Catherine Law. Well, her name is different now, but um, she was kind of walking me through what had happened. But I kind of knew what had happened because it didn't damage my mind at all. I just wasn't able to speak, and I wasn't able to smell. Um, but getting back to your question, the power of prayer through the man of God.
Mm-hmm.
At that particular time, we had a bishop named Bishop W.F. Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, you know how, like, when you say, well, I don't know about you, but, well, I do kind of know about you through your testimony, what you was, how you preached to us.
Mm-hmm.
You had a talk with God. And I saw my condition. I didn't necessarily know my full condition or what the doctors had said at that particular time because there were no doctors around. It was just myself and my auntie.
Mm-hmm.
But the condition that I woke up seeing myself in, and I was praying to God if He would ever get me up out of this situation. And I could remember just at night times crying because in my mind I'm thinking, why in the world did they think that I would harm myself, even at the age of
Yeah,
13?
and so you was upset because they had you. That was part of your reason for being upset is that they had you locked down like
Bound,
that.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I got you. I see.
They had me bound, and no one asked me questions to kind of determine my mindset, to see was I stable, to see was I in my right mind, was I able to think for myself, did I still have that particular capacity even before they diagnosed me with that particular diagnosis. So yeah, I was a little kind of upset, and then too, I felt vulnerable because I couldn't speak for myself. My voice was gone.
I see.
And that was basically due, I think, from the operation that happened. The bullet, when I got shot, it went right between the eyes. And up until about 5 years ago, I actually had a hole that you could actually press your finger through. Can I see your finger now?
Mm-hmm.
If you feel the craters,
Uh-huh.
but before you could feel the crater, it's solid now, but
Mm-hmm.
it actually was a hole. But here's the amazing part. Although it was a hole, the bullet didn't go through my head. It actually went right here with this, then it come behind here. You can kind of see as I press in,
Uh-huh.
it went down through my neck, bust the main artery in my neck, and stopped in my shoulder. So what they did was they pulled the artery out of my leg, put it in my neck, and when I did, uh, initially after I woke up, I had staples, huge staples going right here around my neck. I was clean shaven, sort of like yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
I had my head was real swole, and I had staples going across my head. So if you can imagine waking up looking like that, being tied down, nobody other than my auntie to be able to explain to me what is going on. But I did have a memory of what had happened, just not, what the doctors had said.
I see. I see.
Just my prayer to God at that particular time.
So you start praying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And I was real concerned whether or not he would hear me because
Before
knew-
that time,
yeah.
you kind of went on the righteous side of
Yeah,
life.
that's right.
I got you.
I
I got
wasn't
you.
saved at all.
Uh-huh.
Bishop was preaching,
Uh-huh.
and I wasn't taking it in. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't taking it in. I didn't know God plans for me, so
Yes.
it was kind of up in the air, so to speak.
I
Yes, sir.
understand. I understand. So Bishop Lucas did pray for
He
you.
did pray for me.
Did you
yes, sir.
know he prayed for you?
I knew when my daddy came down, um, and this might have been a couple of days later, because you would think that somebody with that particular injury would be in the hospital for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have been in there 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
So he came down. I say, uh, about a week later
Mm-hmm.
from the initial incident, and by this time, I was up. Um, they loosened up the restraints because when my auntie, before she would leave the hospital at night, I would ask her just to untie one hand. So I would actually, once she untied the one hand, I would untie the other hand. And they found me sleeping, with both hands untied. But my promise to her was I was going to tie back both hands, so she wouldn't get in no trouble. But for me, she did that. So eventually,
They let you
they
start.
let me go. They took away the restraints, and then when my father got down there, he said that when he saw me, he had to kind of regroup. He went outside and did all the crying that he was going to do because they wouldn't be no good for me to see him like that. And but the testimony that I knew about Bishop Lucas, I just wanted to hear what he had said about it. And once my father told me, I kind of had to kind of pry it out of him. So I said, well, what did he say? He said, well, you're going to be all right. I said, well, they got that then. And I don't know how I had that kind of faith.
That kind of faith, yeah.
But to me, that was God sending me confirmation that he had heard me. Not necessarily Bishop praying for me, that God had heard me through my prayer. And so I got out the bed. I got out the bed and began to walk to the bathroom, and they had a mirror by the bathroom.
This was like a week later?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they had a bathroom by the, they had a mirror by the bathroom. And the other one, I looked into the mirror. You remember those little balls? They look like monsters. They call them mad balls.
Okay.
Well, to me, I look like a mad ball.
With all the stitches
With
and
all
stuff?
the stitches and all that.
Yeah.
And it kind of overwhelmed me because when I saw my face and my body, it's like a Frankenstein type characteristic. And I kind of fell back on the bed, and I was like, wow. And I had to kind of regroup myself because, and I was repeating to myself, Bishop said I was going to be all right.
Yeah.
Bishop said I was going to be all right. So, y'all said I might need the tissues. Yeah. So that's what I had to do. And then from that point on, like I said, I wasn't in the hospital none but about 2 weeks for that particular incident. And then I got out because they couldn't find anything or reason to keep me in the hospital. And when I got home,
Can I ask, were you talking before you left?
yes, sir. I was talking.
Okay.
For that first week, my goal was to get on solid food. They had all these tubes feeding me, and not only did they have tubes feeding me, they had to find veins to, and I always had a problem with having my wife say good veins. So they had to find veins in order to give me medications and stuff. And one night, I don't know if she was brand new to the field or whatever, but she must have stuck me at least 10 times. And I told my auntie, I had to write it down because she was like, why are you crying? And I told her, I said, well, some nurse, and I'm writing it down, came in and she stuck me all these times. And if you can see right in here, the little formation of scars, that still remains to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
She was trying to find a vein.
she was trying to find the vein.
And she wasn't skilled in doing it.
Yes, sir. Well, that's what was my determination too.
Oh, yeah. at least from a 30-year-old perspective.
She wasn't trained well. But so she left and somebody else came in. They got what they needed. But from then on, I began to talk. I began to progress, and I was actually the goal that they gave me that I need to be walking around.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually leave the room and walk around the floor. Walk around the floor. Started off, I think, with a walker
Mm-hmm.
at 13, which is a strange sight.
Yeah.
But before I left, I didn't have a walker. I was walking around without a
Within
walker
2 weeks.
within 2 weeks.
And talking.
Yes, sir.
But you weren't supposed to be able to talk,
I wasn't supposed to be able to do anything according to the doctors,
don't you see?
but it wouldn't live up to the doctors.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. And so God began to bless you within 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And within 2 weeks, you was able to go home.
Yes, sir.
But now there was some other residual that come along. And so,
Yes, sir.
so you tell us a little bit about some of the other things that began to happen because of that, the initial
Well,
issue.
I say because of that, but I actually think that I actually brought this particular portion on myself.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is because, you know, when you back in our day, when your mother or grandmother or somebody say, "Be careful about marking that person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mark that person. Don't make fun of that person."
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a front room in my grandmother's house, and she only opened up that room for special occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular occasion, I guess, was deemed a special occasion because I got to sleep in that room. And by this time, my mom had came down. So I don't know who was staying up with my brothers and sisters,
Mm-hmm.
but my mom or either my dad had went back home.
Came down. So you were in a place where your parents were not.
Yes, sir.
And so where were you?
Usually every year, from long as I can remember, we would go down to my mother's mother
Okay.
house, and she used to live in Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama. Okay.
So this was actually the spring break
I see.
weekend.
I see.
So my uncle drove me down for spring break. Excuse me, and I actually ended up staying the whole summer.
Mm-hmm.
But usually for spring break, I come down to get away from just every day, and then go back up, and then come back down for the summer and spend time with my cousins.
I see.
But this particular time, I actually stayed the whole summer,
Mm-hmm.
from the spring break through the summer, and came back.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being, going back to the front room incident.
Mm-hmm.
What had happened was my mom and my grandmother and different ones, they was waiting on me hand and foot, just hand and foot.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I guess, being naive of the situation, I thought it was kind of overdoing it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't look at the totality of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell my mom, I'm fine. I'm fine. Go, go sit down. Go relax. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, if she come back in here one more time, since she keep on coming back in here, I'm going to pretend like something is wrong with me. So,
Mm-hmm.
she'll have a reason to be real concerned like she is.
Uh-huh.
So she came back to the door. I don't know if she was just watching me. And my mind, I'm not thinking I'm her firstborn. And,
Mm-hmm.
That's the mother's love.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too young to have that mindset in
Mm-hmm.
that I see now that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So I start shaking like, something was wrong with me.
Uh-huh.
Well, from that time on till about 22, I began to have seizures. So I went back to the hospital for seizures, and I stayed a little bit longer than 2 weeks this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they might have thought that it was because of the being shot,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it was for being shot. I think that the Lord had healed me from being shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was me pretending to be ill,
Mm-hmm.
which caused the other portion
I see.
of the seizures. And those seizures, what I later found out as an adult, the medications that they had me on wasn't for seizures. They didn't actually even have a seizure medication at that time.
I see.
They had medication that was for depression and mental illness
I see.
that they was giving me as a seizure medication.
Ah.
So I was going through all kinds of dosages, and my seizures were never able to be controlled. And like I said, what I later found out is because the medication that I was taking wasn't seizure medications.
So how did you overcome the seizures? What happened to transpire to overcome that?
I got an age of being married,
Uh-huh.
and I began to have another conversation with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And this conversation went like this. I said, Lord, I'm looking for a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you told the man if he don't work, neither should he eat. And he's supposed to provide for his household. I can't provide for nobody having these seizures.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard a voice say, stop taking the medication.
Mm.
And I said, well, that don't really make sense to me.
Okay.
And you already know what makes sense to us.
Sometimes
Yeah.
what God is prescribes doesn't make sense to us
Yes,
at
sir.
times. It really doesn't.
So and it seemed like it kept getting stronger and stronger. Stop taking the medication.
Mm-hmm.
And Elder, when I tell you I had seizures, well, the type of seizures that I had was the worst type of seizures of all, the seizures. And in some of the different places where I would have seizures.
Were you driving? Did you?
Driving at the top of hills with my feet on the brakes. And I know for a fact that the only thing kept me was God. Walking in a thunderstorm in the middle of traffic, having seizures in the center of the road on the little solid line in between oncoming cars, and not here, stop taking the medications. Yeah, I got kicked out of school for having a seizure. Stop taking the medication. So I stopped taking the medication.
Did you tell anybody you would stop taking it, or did you just say, you know what?
I couldn't do that.
Yeah. So you just
Yes, sir.
you just stopped. You just stopped
Well,
on your
because
own without
before I
telling.
left the house, pretty much every day I stayed with my parents, even when I got to a marrying age. And one of the things that my mom would constantly do is make sure that you get your medication, that you eat breakfast, what a mother does.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially I was lying to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then when she started saying, did you get your medication? Well, then I kind of had a loophole because I would get my medication, just wouldn't take it.
Uh-huh.
So
See, I got it.
yes, sir, I got it, but I wouldn't take it. What I kind of weaned myself off of it. I went with, and see, here's the part that's amazing to me. I was an athlete in school.
Mm-hmm.
I had A minus GPA. I had a full-time job.
And this was after all of this.
After all that.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I still was occasionally having seizures, but once I stopped taking the medication, I stopped having seizures. And this went for, that was before I married my wife. So she never even really know that I had seizures.
I see.
Well over half of our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Well over half of our marriage. She didn't even know that side of me. I could tell her the things that I've been through, but I guess I don't look like that what I
What's
been
it?
through.
What you been through?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so God has blessed you, and
Yes,
He
yes.
blessed you through all of that, which actually should be a testimony to any other person that's going through some traumatic things that God is able. God is able. And now you have your beautiful wife here sitting with you. How long you been married now?
25 years, going on
Is that
20.
right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
25 years. Wonderful.
But
That's
we've
wonderful.
been together for closer to 30.
I see.
Yes, sir.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And tell us about some of the things you've been able to do. Whereas the doctor said you wouldn't be able, basically, that you would be a vegetable. But tell us about some of the jobs you've been able to procure and to have, and maybe even your current, not necessarily where you're working, but some of the things that you're responsible for in your life now.
Well, with the um, mind that I say God have given me,
Hmm.
despite the doctor's prognosis, for well over my half of my adult life, not only have I been able to thank for myself,
Hmm.
but I've been in a supervisory role
Hmm.
for over half of my adult career.
Hmm.
So I've been able to think for others
Hmm.
as well
Hmm.
and put them in the best position to succeed.
Hmm.
Um, I, I'm, I'm well versed in all of the mechanical trades and building trades, from plumbing to carpentry to HVAC
Hmm.
to electrical.
Hmm.
I'm certified in all those fields with some type of certification. Uh, I have a CPO certification. I'm a certified pool operator.
Hmm.
I had my own business for several years.
Hmm.
Um, I own my own house. I say, happily married
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
25 years.
And both of them smiling, y'all. Both of them are smiling. Y'all can't see the other one. You can't see the other half, but she's smiling too and laughing. She look happy.
Yes, sir.
That's wonderful. That's
So
wonderful.
all that come as a by the grace of God.
Yes.
By the grace of God, I
Yes.
can't take credit for none of that. It's
Yes.
just God constantly showing me that He's been with me the
Yes.
whole time.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
wasn't going through none of that by myself.
You know, do you think your life would be? Do you think that? How do I ask this?
The same if God hadn't got my attention.
Yeah, that's where I'm aiming. Do you believe that you were blessed ultimately? I know getting shot was not a,
Yes, sir.
but do you
Yeah.
think that
Get,
that
get,
experience ultimately blessed you?
I would say getting shot was a blessing to me.
Hmm.
Uh, and most people don't look at tribulation like that as a blessing.
Hmm.
But all that the tribulation has brought my way, it has helped me to have a different outlook
Hmm.
on those tribulations. Elder Battle constantly teaches turn that situation bottom side upwards and
Hmm.
just look at all sides of it. So I would say my life is because sometimes our lives we right here close to it
Hmm.
and we have a close up view. But if we can ever get outside ourselves and get a little bit higher and look at the view from a different perspective, you will have a different outlook on it.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, I was blessed because even when I thought I was at my lowest point, uh, these little internal conversations that I'm having with the spirit, and I say, well, show me this or show me that. And a lot of times, either those are not walk through the parks.
Hmm.
Those are, okay, well, since you want to see,
Hmm.
let me show you.
Hmm.
And one thing that I've learned through my journey is regardless, I say thank the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Thank the Lord first and foremost, because I might not see the answer in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the situation,
Yeah.
but then just a little bit beyond that situation, that's why.
That's it.
And then for me, I learned hands on.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my learning, I had to actually be a willing participant of my learning experience.
Right.
So one thing that helped me to know the mind of God is actually reading His Word.
Mm-hmm.
And in reading His Word, I begin to see how different ones, the Hebrew boys,
Mm-hmm.
we're not careful to answer you in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is, even if God don't do what we know He can do,
Yes.
we're not going to change our testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, for them to have to go into that fiery furnace and it's 7 times hotter,
Mm-hmm.
when I spoke about them seizures and them different places, and
Mm-hmm.
even when I think the first seizure that my wife saw, I had got fired from a job. So that was weighing on me because I got fired for not responding on my vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an unjust firing in my mind, and I was like, wow, why would she fire me? And I was nothing but respectful to this lady.
Mm-hmm.
She used to get upset with me with saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am,
Mm-hmm.
yes, ma'am. And, I kind of spoon fed her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Elder, when she fired me, I gave her a hug and I said it was a pleasure working with you.
Mm-hmm.
And she just started crying. But I lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I affected her, and I know I acted differently than what she was anticipating.
Right.
And that was the God in me helping me to do that.
Right.
But I was like, wow, Lord. I had this on my mind. I'm still thinking I'm supposed to be a provider. And my wife took a different type of job, so we could still make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually helping her to get to that job.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a travel nurse, so I would drive her.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I was putting in, applications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we got all the way down to the place that we were supposed to go to. I was going inside the hotel room to reserve the room, and they say I was a little incoherent
Mm-hmm.
with my speech when the guy was responding or asking me questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife was like, well, it's taking him too long. It's taking him too long to come out. That should have been a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, he was actually finna, I guess, come get her because I was having a seizure.
Uh-huh.
And, well, this was the first time that she saw. And so my doctor now that I go to, he told me what happens when you have a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
It said it eats a part of your brain up every time, you have a seizure. And, I'm getting older now, so.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
don't
you don't
have-
want that to eat no
Well,
your brain.
But here's the thing, though, Ella. If it's eating up the hate that I used to have,
Mm-hmm.
if it's eating up the lies I used to have,
Mm-hmm.
all those bad memories, eat all that up.
Mm-hmm.
Just put more love and more joy, more peace.
Just don't bother the good stuff, huh?
Don't bother that, no sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But I had that seizure,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a chance to this particular facility that she was working with. They weren't able to help me, and so they drove me down to Augusta, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got down to Augusta, my wife was with me the whole time. She rode in the ambulance with me. I'm thinking she did.
Mm-hmm.
She might have drove
Mm-hmm.
behind the ambulance, but I didn't recognize her. I knew she was a real kind lady.
Mm-hmm. So this sure is a nice lady. This sure is a nice lady.
But I didn't recognize her. I think I ended up going to the hospital. We had some pretty good singers work there. Sister Good, Sister Jones, and they came to my room, and I don't know if they were singing for me, but uh, when they began to talk, and I was like, okay, I'm in a good place.
So you didn't recognize them either.
I didn't recognize them, but I think that I recognized them more so than I recognized my wife. Because I want to say, they was singing for me. I don't quite remember that situation. They were singing for me. Okay, so they sung for me, and then, well, you know, Sister Goo and Sister
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of got me back to myself, and then the saints praying for me, and I think Ella Jones came through there, and I just revived, you know. So I was like, wow, you know, I went through that just to see the love of the saints, and I'm happy to go through stuff like that, you know, now on this side, but back in the day, because every time I have a seizure, you know, they say that it eats up part of your brain. And I was responsible for a lot of people. I think I have a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding, and I don't want to be where I can't provide. You know, that was my biggest thing. And I'm hoping to have a family, so I don't want to get this far in the game and then not be able to provide for my family. You know, because my father, he had 12 of us, and with him and my mama and different ones helping out, they was able to provide a comfortable living. So I don't have an excuse. So I want to be just like the men that's in my church and my father, you know, that raised me up. I want to follow in those footsteps when I have my family.
Yeah.
And I think that having a disability to where it would hinder that, you know, not being able to think and being this vegetable that the doctors, they say wrongly, they wrongly
The misdiagnosed.
misdiagnose. Yeah. Yeah.
So far off.
Yes, sir.
So far off from what you've been able to fulfill this part in this part of your life.
Yes, sir.
And who knows what else you're gonna do. You know, God knows.
Yes, he do.
God knows.
Yeah.
And so God is good and you survived. And I would say, as I was listening to this conversation and you know, partaking with you, we're talking about I survived, but you thriving, man. You're thriving. You're not just getting over, barely making it.
Yes, sir.
God has really allowed you to thrive in spite of the obstacles. And I believe that what God has done for you is very special, but the God that we serve is not a respecter person.
No, sir.
And just like he loved you, he can love the next person that's going through some traumatic stuff.
Yes, sir.
And just to think and to listen to your testimony and recognize that the God that we serve is able to do that for you and whosoever.
Yes, sir.
That ought to give somebody some hope.
Yes, sir.
That what he's done for Willie Hut the third. I say Willie Hutchinson the third.
Yes, sir. Both of them my name. Both of them my name. Yes, sir.
God is able.
Yes, sir.
God is able. And I believe that all of these things that God has brought you through has increased your faith.
Yes, sir.
I think you're probably a person that has more faith than the average guy.
Okay.
You're probably a guy, you're probably a man that has more faith than the average person.
Well, I think that's Corinthians talk about that gift of faith.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, some of the incidents that I went through may help to nurture that gift. So yes, sir, I believe that I may possess the gift of faith, just to believe regardless.
You believe. You're a believer. And that's a blessing to have confidence in God. And you know, and really after you have these experiences, the Bible says that tribulation worketh patience.
Yes, sir.
Patience, experience.
Yes, sir.
Experience,
Come on.
hope. Hope maketh not ashamed.
Not ashamed.
Because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's Romans, the 5th chapter.
Yes, sir.
And so the things that you've gone through has given you experience.
Yes, sir.
And it's kind of like, David. He was a man of faith as well. When he come to Goliath, one of the things that he was looking at, I killed a bear,
Yes, sir.
a lion,
Yes, sir.
and so these different things rose up to get my sheep, and I was able to slay them.
Yes, sir.
And so who's this uncircumcised Philistine?
Yes, sir.
Defying the armies of God. And so he went at him, and slayed him.
Yes, he did.
And slayed him. And in fact, he didn't even take all of the armor of the king.
No, sir.
He just took 5 smooth stones and a sling.
He hadn't proved them.
And he hadn't proven those
Yes,
things,
sir.
but he did believe in the name of the Lord.
Yes, sir.
And I would say that faith in the name of the Lord, the Bible says that the righteous run into the name of the Lord and they're safe. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. And so it's beautiful that when you started this journey at 13, when you couldn't even talk,
Yes, sir.
you had a prayer. You had a prayer.
Yeah.
And then after you heard about the prayer that got the conversation from Bishop Lucas, your pastor at the time.
Yes, sir.
He said, well, what did it say? Well, what did it say? He said, you're going to be all right. You held on to that. You said, well, I'm going to be all right.
Yes,
My
sir.
pastor said, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right.
Be all right.
You looked in the mirror, saw Frankenstein. He said, oh,
Yes, sir.
you got a little nervous.
A little nervous.
A little nervous. You had to sit back on the bed.
Yes,
But
sir.
you had to encourage yourself and
Yes,
say,
sir.
Pastor said, I'm going to be all right.
That's what he said.
And you held to that confidence.
Yes, sir.
And part of your journey is the confidence and the faith. You know, even Jesus said this about some that came to him. He said, according to your faith,
Yes, sir.
be it unto you. Be it unto you.
Yep. That's right.
You believe your faith has brought you this far?
Yes, sir.
Your faith in God.
And then, too, you spoke about Jesus Christ. I think one of the prophets did it, too, in the Old Testament. Them unbelievers, they put them out the room. And they forget the ones that laughing, they put them out the room. And because you don't need nobody in your corner that with no unbelief when you're trying to seek God for something serious like that. And sometimes, even when I have the faith that certain things gonna work out a certain way, I won't even consult with my wife because some of the stuff that God done brought me through and yet bringing me through, I can't put into words.
Yes.
So since I can't put into words and give her a reasonable answer, I just say just wait and see. It'll be all right. And to this day, everything is all right. And I still hold on to the fact about it. We renewed our our vows. And your grandfather, he married us when we renewed our vows. How about he said the same exact words? He said, oh, it'll be all right. So I said, now I got 2 bishops that done told me it'll be all right. So everything gonna be all right.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm going through something that is hard to, I'm not gonna say swallow, but it may be a little bit perplexing in my mind. You know, you kind of get that Job syndrome sometimes. But who can know the mind of God? So it's going to be all right. That's what I tell myself. And then sure enough, yes, sir, it's beginning to work itself out.
Work out.
Work itself out. Just you got to keep a loving attitude and a right spirit.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right. That's right. And God be with you.
Yes,
Then
sir.
who can be against you? Who can be against you?
Yeah.
And the faith you have, I believe, is rubbed to your wife somewhat. And then now you got confidence in God, and she got confidence in you.
Thank you, Lord.
And look like things are working beautifully for you.
Yes, sir.
And I say to our audience that God is good, and this man survived, and he's thriving by the grace of God and by his faith in God. And the thing I would say to our audience is, God is no respecter of persons. If He did this for Brother Willie, He can do it for you, and your family, and your children. Let's look to God, and you won't only survive, you can thrive.
Yes, sir.
With faith in God. And the scripture speaks on this wise. It says, we are more than conquerors through Him that loved us. And all things does work together for
sir.
good to them that are called according to His purpose. And so we appreciate you. We're glad that you're here. We just ask you, I believe that this conversation will be a benefit to those that hear it. But I'm going to ask you to stay in touch, stay in tune with this Growing in Grace podcast. Like, share, subscribe, and get others to come to this podcast. And you come back next week. God bless you.